it stands up and is like locking eyes with him. And then it spoke a single word. And that word was Gadara. And so, there's a lot of speculation around. It's like, was it a name? Was it a word? Blah, blah, blah. Like, he growled it, so it's like maybe it was just a growl and I just heard things. But if you look up the word Gadara,
Hello everyone and welcome to the Fictitious Dark, where we explore the line between the truth and the fictitious. I'm Josiah and I'm here with my co-hosts Brandon and Rick.
Today we're going to be talking about the good old Dogman.
Yes. The Dogman,
the man that is always confused with being a werewolf. The man that's always confused to being a Skinwalker. The man...
It's very interesting that you mentioned Skinwalkers, because I have a through line that's going to take us back to the Skinwalkers when it's time.
Ooh.
There is a lot of interesting stuff around it, because I do think the Dogman is he's one of those ones where he kind of just blends a lot of different things together.
Yeah.
So what is the Dogman, Rick?
Well, a short little description of the Dogman is the Dogman is a 7-foot-tall, blue-eyed or amber-eyed bipedal canine-like animal with the torso of a man and a fearsome howl that sounds like a human scream. The difference between like a Dogman and your typical werewolf, where a werewolf is completely, dog-like or human, or not dog-like all the way through, even down to the paws and everything. Most Dogman sightings say that it's a human canine head with a human body. And some say that it has canine paws as well. So there's a bunch of different things that I've been seeing that have been like kind of like disputes against what the actual Dogman is. But this was the small description that I pulled up, so that's what I went with. So where do you guys want to start with the Dogman? Do you guys want to start back in 1887 with the first sighting, or do you guys want to start with 1987 in the song?
So this is the interesting part, because when I read the Wikipedia page for the Michigan Dogman specifically, the funny thing to me is that it almost seems like it was implying that this is a reverse engineered mythology. That the song caused these random newspaper clippings, these random sightings of different things to be linked to this as a way to like reverse engineer mythology that was referenced in the song. That maybe the song's creator had heard one of these, and then kind of retrospectively or retroactively, the 1800s now is the birth of the Dogman rather than 1987. So like, it's been around for 100 years.
Yeah.
If not more. And it is interesting because just to go into that story for a bit, I'll just pull it up. So it is said to have been stalking the area near the Manistee River since the days when the Odawa tribe lived there. The source for that comes from 2015. So, there's no documentation of that from the Odawa tribe. But the alleged encounter occurred in 1887, Wexford County. 2 lumberjacks saw a creature they described as having a man's body, dog's head. And that's it. They saw it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's for the Michigan Dogman portion, that is the origin point. It's just some lumberjack saw it. What are you going to do?
I think I also heard that the lumberjacks, when they saw it, they said they heard it make a screech. I don't know if this was different lumberjacks, but I'm pretty sure I heard it was these lumberjacks, that it made a noise that sounded like a child, like a human child screaming.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's something that they don't really list as it's a child's scream.
Yeah.
That would obviously be way scarier.
Yeah. I know the classic like modern examples of people saying that they saw the Dogman is the sightings. Most of them are something where they saw like an actual like wolf or something, and it was like on all fours. It just looked like a really big wolf, and they were like kind of freaking out. And then like then it makes eye contact with them, and then it stands up and is as tall as a man and like taller than a man, but is standing up like a man with a dog's head. And that's your classic case of Dogman.
Well, and that kind of ties into the whole thing that I sent you guys, the Gable film, which I believe was uploaded to YouTube around 2009, but appears to be like some 16 millimeter or 8 millimeter film. And the Dogman that arrives at the end, the last 30 seconds of that, seems to be like kind of prowling on all fours. Seems to be more like large wolf, almost kind of bear-like.
Have you seen the old, I want to say original, but who knows if it's a remake, I'm pretty sure original Narnia film, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe?
Yes.
And they have like the wolf in the costume and stuff.
Yes, you're talking about the BBC series from the 70s.
Yeah.
Yes, they had all the animals be people in costumes.
Yeah, like I remember they actually like have a real like trained wolf on set and stuff, and classic shot that they kind of did several times in different variations, but it was like, you know, the group's all in a certain area, and then the wolf comes up to them and goes up on a big rock and then starts howling, and then all of a sudden it just turns into a dude in the most ridiculous wolf costume continuing the howl, and it's like, oh no. But
so you guys based on the Gable film, you're not really sold on this.
I am not, because it reminded me of that film.
You know, I'd say it's like they did a decent job trying to make it.
It's definitely spooky.
It is spooky. There's just something about it that didn't.
Yeah.
I was impressed with the way the individual was able to run on all fours. It did have kind of a bounding quality to it.
I mean, it's true. Something does look kind of uncanny about it, even though it does also look like a costume.
Yeah.
So,
but alas,
I beat up a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have yet to find a cryptid video that can surpass the Patterson-Gimlin film for me. That one still remains the most real looking.
Because like, okay, so I'm looking at the Gobble or Gabble.
I think it's Gable.
So I'm looking at it right now, and if anything, it almost looks like a goat in a costume.
Yeah, I agree. It kind of has like the same almost feel.
Like it's
actually scarier.
Yeah.
Like a goat got dressed up as a wolf and was like.
And to me, it didn't look too big. Like some reports that they've been like 7 feet tall to like 10 feet tall, and I'm like, that one looks like more like maybe like a 2 foot tall, 3 foot tall. Maybe not even that.
The one thing about it as well that almost feels like it means it's a dude is as it starts like running at him, its back end starts raising a little bit, which is classic sign of it being a actual guy, because it's just his ass sticking up as he's running on all fours. Because you can't help but to do that as a human with our anatomy.
I saw someone analyze it where there's a brief frame of like the teeth up towards the camera, but the thing is that it's not. It just kind of jump cuts to it.
Yeah,
looks like it's spliced in. It doesn't look like it's a natural pan up to.
Yeah.
So they kind of, and I believe Monster Quest, for all their failures, they actually the guy came out to them and said, "I faked this, and I created this film, and I was in the suit, and here's how I did it and stuff." So Monster Quest finally did something right,
So so they did admit to it.
I believe so.
Okay.
I haven't watched the actual video, but the sources I'm finding are saying that he came out to them and admitted that it was in fact a fake.
Sounds like another video topic we should tackle sometime.
I think Monster Quest puts their stuff on YouTube, so unless they would claim it.
Cool. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen any Monster Quest stuff, so that'd be rad.
I remember.
I have a quote here actually. This is a quote from the creator about Monster Quest. It looks like there's some beef.
Ooh,
Ooh.
Quote,
I like beef.
I assumed after revealing the true source of the film to Monster Quest, the producers would move on to some other creature. Wrong again. They were more excited than ever to produce the show. They felt the story was so compelling they made it their season finale. Do you get what that means? Monster Quest, and everyone involved knew the Gable film was fake weeks before production began. The entire episode was scripted and staged to look like they exposed it. More stagecraft, designed for entertainment and profit. Well, there you go. We
Sounds
found
like
out.
Yeah.
Sounds like someone a little butthurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
They created a narrative for it, so it's like you can't really blame them too much. But at the same time, it does sound like maybe they might have been a little scummy about their process of it.
Well, I still just think it's funny. Like, you hoax something and then you're mad someone else hoaxes your hoax.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
It's like they were dabbling in the same craft you were, my friend.
Yeah. I
They got
lied,
on
but I didn't think that they would also lie.
It's the classic. It's like how the BTK killer. He was like, I can't believe the police lied and said they couldn't track where the floppy disk came from. Why would they do that? You know. But one other funny thing, I looked, and the Gable film has an IMDb page. There are only 2 reviews, one of which is this is completely a hoax, and the other is no, they hired an actor and did a disinformation campaign. The Gable film is real, and this is all a hoax to say this is a hoax. So maybe
Hoaxception.
it's hoaxception.
Yeah.
Right.
That's funny.
It's a hoax of a hoax, but it's not a hoax.
Yeah, but so as far as Dogman goes, I know that a big thing with it is the question of Skinwalker.
Right.
In the particular area, I forget. I think you might have said the tribe's name, the native tribe that was
Odawa.
So the Odawa tribe, they had all these stories of the Dogman, and they referred to it as the long dog, because it's a dog that can stand up. And so they had their own theories within like their tribe, which is kind of cool to actually hear this rather than it's just them being like, oh, it's this. They theorized. They just thought either it was just some kind of ancient beast, or they also theorized that they thought it was skinwalkers that broke off from their tribe and went, and because there's something along a reason why they believed some of their tribe members left and became skinwalkers, and there's a whole like event around it. So they thought that it was them, and that this long dog was indeed a tribe of skinwalkers in the area.
It is funny to me how Skinwalkers explain so many of these anthropomorphic cryptids, because it explains why you never find them in that form, because that's not their natural form. It's an assumed form, or they're mid transformation. So the Skinwalkers, Goatman, the werewolf mythology. We know this even from Stephanie Meyer made this connection in Twilight. Is the skin? She kind of merged Skinwalkers and werewolves.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so then I know like a big one thing as far as the idea of skinwalkers. The question is like the severity of their bad medicine and how it works exactly. Because I've heard a theory of people talking about it, and I would say, it kind of makes sense if you are trying to make sense in this world of bad medicine and bad magic, is the theory that the person who is wearing the pelts and doing and acting in a fashion of trying to become an animal and everything like that, is that the entities that then get involved in this like magic and curse that they are participating in, that it's not that they actually transform into the animal, but it's like they have a persona around them of it. So anybody who sees them becomes entranced in this spell, and so they see this crazy dog man or, you know, crazy creature, but in reality it is just a person wearing pelts, but it's the magic and the evil entities involved that are casting a spell onto the people who see it.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I was trying to find like the origin of Dogman, like what is the primal or mythological origin point, and I kept thinking back to you know, the Egyptian gods, to Anubis with the jackal's head, the guard, you know, the guy who's in the underworld weighing souls. And something interesting was I heard something similar in that some beliefs is that they didn't literally have the animal heads, but they would turn into that form. And if you were given a head of something, that meant you had the power to assume that form. It's not that you were halfway necessarily. So that sounds very similar to that, is that there's this persona that is around you.
No, yeah, and it's like that is probably the furthest back example is the Anubis example. And that is very interesting as far as like that is a very disconnected culture of like Native Americans to Egyptians, and yet they have the depiction of something that is very similar. Like that's got to mean something, you know.
Yeah. That's what I mean, is that there's like these origin points where it kind of explains everything, or you can trace back these roots, but to a distant point, but then they crop up in these other cultures out of nowhere, you know.
Yeah, which then gives you back to the whole thought of like demons, spiritual entities, there being some kind of validity in that fashion. But so I found this other story that it was in, I think it was in Wisconsin. I'm kind of playing this off of memory.
Is this the Beast of Bray Road?
That sounds familiar. Dude saw it in a cemetery. Is it connected to that?
It looks like no, a little bit different. The Beast of Bray Road is a wolf-like creature near Elkhorn, Walworth County, Wisconsin. And it looks like it is about 6 to 7 feet, humanoid-style body, furry, red or orange eyes. But some reports describe it as being closer to a traditional werewolf or to Bigfoot.
Yeah.
This one left scratches on doors and trunks of vehicles. Someone hit something on Bray Road. Animal mutilations abound around there. Partially eaten organs.
Yeah, okay. So I did hear about that one. But so this other one is also in Wisconsin, so I think they attributed it to the same thing. But it was this guy's experience. I don't remember his last name. His name was Mark. He was overseeing a cemetery. I believe the cemetery had like Saint in its name, so it's some type of potential like a Catholic cemetery or something like that. But so he was like patrolling it at night. He sees some like very dark ink black fur doing something around a grave. So he gets up closer to see a look. And so he sees what is described as a dogman defiling a grave. And that grave is a Native American grave.
And Skinwalker confirmed.
Exactly. And it's like this wasn't a Native American cemetery, but this particular grave was Native American.
Okay.
And so he sees it. It like looks over at him, runs off, and he's like freaking out and whatnot. And I think he might have moved around or something, and he saw it in a different spot, but I think he still saw it like it like may have came back to the same spot. But so he like sees it again. It stands up and is like locking eyes with him, and then it spoke a single word, and that word was Gadara. And so, you know, there's a lot of speculation around. It's like, was it a name? Was it a word? Blah, blah, blah. Like, he growled it. So it's like maybe it was just a growl and I just heard things. But if you look up the word Gadara, Gadara is the name of a town in Israel. What does that mean? I have no idea.
This is the brother Bidum thing all over again.
Yeah.
This could mean anything, but that is intriguing.
Mm-hmm. Because when it comes to a lot of Middle East things, there are what's known as jinn, which specifically is just like, it's their word for demon. But jinn are like genies. They are attached to things. They're known for their attachments and making deals and like that kind of stuff. Very, very dark, like evil entities. Mm-hmm. Lots of like just downright pure evil when it comes to jinn specifically. So, you know, I don't know. It's maybe Dogman Jinn connection, possibly.
Leprechauns versus Jinn.
Yeah.
Watch that episode.
But are you sure that he wasn't just growling and like the first 3 letters of him going growling was grrr, and he was like Dara?
I mean, maybe. But the guy said it really sounded like he like pronunciated within his growl, so it was at least enough for him to like, because he had no idea as far as what that would mean. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, who knows? I don't know if like there's you know, it's a word, it's a name. It sounds kind of weird. It could be some kind of Native American name or word that we don't know of. But you know, who knows? It's just another thing because, you know, you got your Egyptian connection of Anubis, Native American connection, Skinwalker stuff mostly, and then maybe throw in Israel a little bit.
Like some of the oldest cultures in, you know, the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
I found the word. So the word to describe a dog-headed creature. This is not a lycanthrope. This is not a dog that can talk, but it's a cynophallus. Don't laugh. Cynophalia. And so it's interesting. There's a lot of stuff regarding this. Saint Christopher, the Catholic saint, was portrayed with the head of a dog, which is very odd. Mm-hmm. And there's
a Minotaur Minotaur is bullheaded, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But it is similar. And something interesting, this is kind of horrifying if you really think about it, but if you want to look at the characters of Disney, Goofy would be classified as a dogman.
True.
He would.
True.
Hidden occult connection, Walt Disney?
Yep.
I believe it.
Yeah.
So I was just looking up meaning of Gadara. So there's all stuff as far as Hebrew and like, oh, what does that mean in English? It means sheepfold, which means a pen or a shelter for sheep. Dogs are often used with sheep. Werewolves, the popular thing, werewolves is them killing sheep because that's like a wolf thing.
Interesting.
Maybe that was the Dogman calling him a sheep, you know?
Yeah. He was saying leave or you're next.
Or I'm gonna eat you, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
You know, I think honestly, given a lot of the stuff what we've been talking about, there was actually quite a bit that came up in my research, including I think the Dogman has the potential to be a breakout cryptid. And I know, Rick, we've been talking about this as what's a cryptid that's going to break out down the line and be on the level of a Bigfoot or something, or Loch Ness. And there is a channel that I listened to part of a video of. It's called Dogman Encounters on YouTube. It has 111,000 subscribers and, you know, many thousands of viewers on its videos. So that doesn't tell you that people are seeing or interested in this concept. I don't know what will. You know, it's Obviously, you'll get that for some other, but it's entirely focused on people's testimonials about Dogman, like just Dogman, no other content. And has 111,000. You know,
And that was the thing that I noticed the most doing the research, is that there's like almost like a set amount of historical, like, you know, references back that, you know, happened on the 7th year of every decade.
yeah.
But more of the like fruitful like information about Dogman are coming from like firsthand experiences from people that are just posting them on the internet, on whether it's No Sleep or the Dogman Reddit. Those are
There's
where I found more, you know, experiences and stories overall than the actual historical context.
Yeah, there
that,
seems
you
to
know.
be more encounters growing. Like I even saw on the 2018 and 2020
Yeah,
major encounters being reported to authorities. So it's exploding in encounter rates,
yeah.
which
And like
I
the
think
big,
is true for Goatman too.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
And the thing, like, if you look back on like some of the historical stories, they said that Dogman was always visible, you know, on the 7th year of every decade.
Yeah.
But now it seems like there's more sightings that are not following that pattern of him showing up on the 7th, you know, year.
Too much power. So.
Yeah. And a lot of like the stories I was like thinking of, you know, throughout the time when I was researching, is if we go back to the song that, you know, Steve Cook made, I think it was called The Legend. And this goes back to some research we've done as well in the past. Could the Dogman be some kind of like poltergeist like, you know, cryptid that he released that song that was somewhat popular and it started giving him more power and people started believing him more. He started getting stronger and stronger. And now we're seeing more and more, you know, appearances by Dogman and a lot more stories of people coming forward of him.
Yeah.
Do you think that's something that's possible?
Yeah. I
Him being
mean,
maybe some kind of poltergeist as well.
potentially.
Yeah.
Especially just the fact of, what you give your energy to and everything.
We've talked about the native tribes. They don't even want to say the name of certain things to avoid drawing attention or giving the entity space in people's heads. You know.
Yeah.
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 So they definitely believe it. And a lot of what we're looking at ties into that. So
I would say the difference of like Dogman versus other cryptids, especially like Bigfoot, for example, sightings with Dogman, people are way more scared. Like it feels like a predator and it means to do harm. Bigfoot, you have some of those stories, but you have mix, you know. It doesn't feel like Bigfoot wants to murder you as he's looking at you. Whereas like
no,
that is the
usually
feeling.
it's like maybe some rocks get thrown, you know,
Yeah.
which is more like a stay away. But I agree. Is what I found with a lot of this is that there's this very intense fear, this paralyzing fear, and the screech, this human screech. You know, it's really unsettling. It's enough that a lot of people are. There was even this one video I watched from Dogman Encounters where someone was like, I thought it was Bigfoot, and then now I believe it to be the Dogman. So that's even almost like a conversion.
Yeah.
Like people are like, no, it's too malevolent. It has to be something else. It's not Bigfoot, you know?
Yeah. No, yeah, exactly. And I've definitely heard of stories of people, they were looking for Bigfoot and they saw Dogman, you know? But yeah, so as far as the idea of like the poltergeist idea, I would almost think that Dogman maybe a little less with poltergeist, because poltergeist doesn't necessarily have intentions, and is just, it comes into existence and it doesn't have like a soul to it. Whereas a lot of Dogman stuff, there's a lot of like bad juju around it. So if anything, it's the idea of being able to conjure a poltergeist is the same idea of being able to give your energy to an actual entity and that entity to use it nefariously. So I would say Dogman fits more in that category of that sort of thing.
You think Dogman more of maybe like a demonic
That's what it seems like.
Yeah.
demonic form.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that kind of goes the same for like Goatman and stuff like that. And the thing that's funny about Dogman and Goatman is like if you see both of them are like the same kind of shape.
Yeah.
So I feel like those two might blend together quite a bit, honestly.
Well, and Goatman, that goes back to that goes back to Baphomet and some other occult things.
That too, which is
Yeah.
also
That's just like
demonic. So.
oh, very yeah. And then Dogman, it's biblically, if you look, there's a lot of verses about dogs, lapping up the blood of Jezebel and stuff like that. So there's definitely some the dog is a force of it's almost like a scavenger type.
Well,
But,
yeah, that's the jackal,
Uh-huh.
which goes back to Anubis.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of like Native American stuff with the ideas of like jackals and coyotes, the scavengers, of them representing certain types of spirits that I don't remember exactly at the moment, but definitely like they are like a scavenger. There's certain entities that are referred to as spiritual scavengers a lot of the time, where they're there to feed on energy, but they're cowards and they will not necessarily get involved in things, but they will be there,
Well, let's not forget that we've done a very good job at domesticating wolves into dogs, right? We with rare exception, we domesticated them and kind of made them cuter and encouraged traits that would lend to be more important to us than necessarily to their survival. But let's not forget, the Egyptians worshipped cats, not dogs, and it was because if you look at cats will keep themselves clean, but dogs will, not all dogs, but some dogs will even eat their own, their own leftovers, so to speak. So like there is this kind of uncleanliness that at least the Jewish mystics understood. So even though it's not all the time necessarily, not in the not too distant past, the dogs were associated with filth, or they would be comfortable in filth in a way that we are not.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know. So then for a lot of like Native American stuff, but I think this one bleeds into a lot when it comes to the idea of the jackal as a spiritual entity, is often associated with trickery and deceitfulness and kind of like the a lot of Irish stuff where they have the ideas of they like to play pranks and stuff like that and mess with you. A lot of cultures have the idea of the jackal in that kind of regard.
Yeah, the jackal, and the coyote.
Mhm.
Again, they're both more scavengers. Jackals are not necessarily, they're definitely more scavenger than predator based.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
And, it's almost like, it goes back to the story, kind of like the Three Little Pigs, where the wolf is the bad character, coming trying to blow the house down. And some of these Dogman stories, the Dogman's trying to get into these structures that people are in, whether it's like a cabin in the woods, or one of the stories I read was a truck driver that was driving down, I think it was in Michigan as well, and he had to pull over and fix one of his tires that had a hole in it. And he said it took probably about around 5 minutes or so, but something felt uncomfortable and something felt not right. So he hurried up, got back on the road, and he started driving down the road. And he said it was completely pitch dark, but something still didn't feel right. And he was like looking around, looking at his mirrors, and he looked over at his passenger side mirror on the right hand side, and he said that he saw a dog-like head that was keeping pace with him at around 25 miles per hour. And this animal or Dogman scratched at the side of his door, and he could feel like his door handle like jiggling. And he says if it wasn't for his handgun that he had on him, he shot where he thought the head was, and then all of a sudden it was gone. And he said he drove up just a little bit of time and decided, he wanted to go back and see what it was. So he flipped his truck around, and by the time he got back there was two people that were standing there, and supposedly there was a bear fight that was happening at that very spot.
What?
It wasn't, there wasn't anything else, but it was two humans that said it was a bear fight. And he said that he didn't want to explain what the story was, and he just got in his truck and drove off.
That's that. The end point of the story is almost weirder than the Dogman itself.
Exactly, because he explained like the whole idea that it was dark. He couldn't see anything on the roadway, and at that point, when it's that dark, there's no lights behind you driving. There's nothing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he must have been able to bring it around. Yeah, he must have been able to bring it around pretty quickly.
Yeah. And he says that he swear that where he shot was probably right in the head, and he shot a handful of times.
Skinwalkers.
Yeah. I mean,
that is interesting.
Yeah, it was a pretty creepy story. When I read, I was like, "Oh, that's kind of unsettling."
And this is like a semi truck, right? So it's like it's got to be pretty high.
Yeah. Exactly, and he says that it's probably about 9 feet tall off the ground.
Yeah. So yes, a bear could stand up that high, but a bear cannot run that fast.
It would have to be quadruped. Yeah, exactly. It had to be quadruped while running.
He says that the head that he saw was canine-like.
Yeah.
Army of Anubis.
Yep.
It was like the mummy. Mummy Returns.
Yeah, the Mummy Returns. Yeah.
There's this other thing that I was listening to a while ago. I found it on the Confessionals podcast, which is it's a guy that he is all in on the idea that cryptids are spiritual entities and possibly demons and stuff. And so he had a guest on his show. His show is all about talking to guests that have had encounters. So it's the confession of their experience. So that's his whole thing. This particular guest, he has a book. So this guest, his idea with Bigfoot, the Dogman, with a lot of these particular cryptids, his thought is that they are related to the Nephilim, and they're like remnants of that. And if anyone somehow doesn't know what the Nephilim are a product in the Bible of fallen angels mating with humans and them creating giants. And these giants having all sorts of different DNA splicing things going on, and them mating with animals and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. So there's an idea of just these twisted beings, not just giants, but that they're also infused with different animals, and would be the explainer for a lot of different cryptids, as far as anything that is a crossbreed between a human and an animal. That's kind of like the idea, is that it's a product of a Nephilim thing. And that is also part of the idea as to why God flooded the earth, was because they're getting out of hand, and they were messing up just DNA itself. So that's kind of where that came from.
Didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so This guy, his name is the guy with the Nephilim idea, Scott Carpenter. He so he literally got involved with all this stuff because of having experiences. He did not believe in Bigfoot or anything like that until he was on a fishing trip and he had a encounter with Bigfoot, saw him like on the shore of the lake and stuff like that. Um, and so he got super into Bigfoot and everything. He then made a connection with David Paulides, which is the Missing 411 author, which is a whole nother topic we should definitely cover sometime.
Okay.
Yeah.
You hit my intrigue bone, and then you
okay.
leave me high and dry.
Okay. Do you not know anything about Missing
No,
411?
no.
Okay. So the Missing 411, just a quick summary of it, because it is such a vast topic that we should definitely cover it.
Yeah.
I find it extraordinarily interesting. The Missing 411 is it's a categorization that this former cop detective made because he became he was a police officer, then he retired and became like a investigator, personal investigator or whatever, and he started working on a lot of missing persons cases, and so then he noticed a pattern in these missing persons cases of similar people and like similar things happening to them, and so he titles it Missing 411. That if it fits the Missing 411 category, that is that. Now, what the Missing 411 category is usually so the circumstances is mainly what it is, but there is a high percentage of the particular people that are involved in it are usually not middle aged, like 20 young-ish aged German descent males. It's literally like a super high percentage of everybody that fits in this category. So the category of the circumstances of them going missing is that there's a whole bunch to it, but off the top of my head, is that it was like they straight up, like it's almost like they disappeared. Like they're hiking with a group of friends, like, and then the group of friends like literally talking to them, turn around, dude disappeared. Like it's like, where did he go? And then like a whole search commences. One of the factors in the Missing 411 is usually when they go to do their search, there's always a storm that rolls in, and so all these like complications. But then the big thing is that if they do find them, it is like miles away from where they went missing, and all these different factors of like if they're alive, they don't remember anything, like at all. If they're dead, actually both dead and alive, their clothing is either missing or mismatched. So almost like a outside individual stripped them down and then put clothes back on the wrong way.
The Aryan aliens. That's why they're taking the German descent guys.
Yeah. Maybe.
They're trying to, you know.
But yeah, so like there's these stories of like children, like a toddler that went missing and then was found like 20, maybe close to 50 miles away in a different spot, inclement weather things where it's like no way a kid could have walked that. Kid doesn't have his shoes, that kind of deal. Then like the kid like describes, hairy man carried me away, and like all sorts of different stuff. Like all these crazy things. One of the craziest stories, which is just like, how do you explain that? I don't remember who the individual was, but so they were looking for a person, and they're very certain of he had to be in this whatever area. of like where he went missing. And so there's a particular road that they used every day with the search. The search was like 12 days, maybe more. And so one day, like they went out for the day. They used this particular road to get access to like this land park, whatever. And so they do their search for the day, and they call it a day. And so they head back on the same exact road that they were just on like 12 hours earlier. And then on their way back, there is a very large tree blocking the road. And on top of that tree is the missing person, naked and dead, laid on the tree.
It was just a bear fight, I swear.
Yeah, exactly. And then I believe usually with these missing people, when they find them, the cause of death is always really weird. Like it just doesn't make sense as to like why and where. I know there was like there's a different one where the person they found his cause of death seemed like he fell from a high height, but where they found him, there was no high heights around, like middle of an open field, type deal. And it's just like
he drowned. It's in a desert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So it's just all sorts of just stuff that just doesn't add up. So that's David Paulides. I've heard people pronounce his last name Pilates as well. It's kind of how it's spelled.
He
created Pilates.
The boba yoga.
Yeah.
He does Pilates. I do yoga and drink boba.
Perfect. But yeah, so anyway, so this other author, Scott Carpenter, made a connection with David Paulides along the way of all of his research and everything, because David Paulides, he tries to not give his own opinion on stuff when he does his research, but I think a lot of it does become inevitably a little bit of bias, because I think he's a big Bigfoot guy is what it comes down to. So there are certain things where his biased perspective just points towards Bigfoot, even though he tries to not give his own opinion on it. But so Scott Carpenter, he had an experience where he went out doing his Bigfoot searching. He was like, after he had his Bigfoot experience and everything, he became like obsessed and was going out every single weekend looking for Bigfoot and all this stuff. So he went out, I don't remember where, somewhere, like he literally like talked to David Paulides, like I think before he went out, and ended up talking to him after. He went out there and the exactness I don't remember quite, but something was behind him. He knew something was behind him at some point while he was out there, and he turned around, and he's out there doing his like Sasquatch calls and doing all this sorts of stuff, and then what he sees is the description of a Dogman like holding onto a tree and like staring at him. And then he's like he immediately grabs his pistol from his hip, but he's like not pointing it at him because he's like this thing looks like it wants to pounce. And so then he just like, he froze, and like this, and they're just eyes locked the whole time. And he said it was just the most like evil looking like and feeling thing that he's ever encountered. And he's like, this thing wants to kill me. And he said he's just like, if I try to shoot it, it's definitely gonna kill me, so I should only shoot it if it starts coming towards me. And so he's like trying to like back away slowly. And I believe he at the time he was not carrying with a round in the chamber, and so he went and like cocked it, and when he cocked it, the thing like moved more, and like I think I want to say, I don't remember for sure, but it might have like it then got off the tree like when he cocked it, and got a little bit closer to him. He's like, "Oh crap, should have done that." And like, but so then he just kept backing up slowly and slowly until eventually he was like, it was staying in one spot and until he was like a certain distance away, and then so he started turn around, started walking faster. He said, but then he heard it like moving, and he could keep like looking back and seeing it. It was keeping its distance, but it followed him all the way to his car. And then he I think he had, there was something where he had to call his wife to like pick him up from an area. So maybe he didn't have his own car. It was just like the parking lot or something. So he walked even further until it wouldn't stop following. It stopped following him, and called his wife. And then his wife went and picked him up. And yeah, and then he was just like in the car, like shaking, like holding the gun in his hand, and like and his wife's like, why are you holding a gun in your hand? Like, what's going on? And like all this stuff. And he called Dave Politis. He's like, I almost got killed by the Dogman. It's all your fault. So,
It's almost like you hear about those encounters with big cats,
mm-hmm.
or with certain bears too. Is that you're not supposed to turn and run because that's a sign of weakness. So as long as you maintain eye contact and back away slowly, that's the key. So It seems like this thing had high intelligence, but not necessarily human intelligence. It could have had just basic prey drive.
Mm-hmm.
But he did sense evil from it. But that is interesting because it does sound like those, like cougars. Like, don't ever run from a cougar.
Yeah.
Like that's a horrible idea.
Yeah.
It's like throwing a ball of yarn for your cat. It'll chase it.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to say that he said that the eyes were kind of red looking as well. So
that's crazy though.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's like a lot of the stories that I hear are people expecting that they'll have some sort of Sasquatch encounter, and then it's that.
Dogman appears. He's taking the world by storm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The dark Bigfoot.
Who knows? Yeah. Maybe it's Bigfoot, like evil Bigfoot wearing a dog's head on his head, like a mask.
Bigfoot evolved.
That should be the video title, is the anti-Bigfoot, or
mm-hmm. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot,
the evil Bigfoot.
Forgot to mention earlier, the story where the guy saw the Dogman in the cemetery. He said it had its footprints were that like a human, but then it had claws like a dog.
Skinwalker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Skinwalker.
The claws were an illusion.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Perhaps.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I definitely see a more of an online presence of Dogman more than a lot of stuff these days. That's for sure.
Yeah, it is very interesting. It is very interesting.
Like, I thought Dogman was more of a creepy pasta type character more than a folklore character, but now it's almost somewhat of both.
Well, it's just interesting because it's like the idea and what Dogman's supposed to look like and whatnot is literally like a werewolf. It's just like you're not incorporating the actual werewolf lore of like the moon and all that kind of stuff. So it's just like minus the werewolf lore, but it looks the same. So I find that interesting.
Yeah.
Because normally that would make me think fictional,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So
there's an article that I was reading that was trying to explain what Dogman could be,
right.
And they kind of compared it to the Chupacabra, which me and Josiah had an episode where Brandon was too cool for us, but that's another
it's because he's too scared.
Yeah, Chupacabra scared him.
Yeah, I can't mess with that Chupacabra juju.
But the whole idea that that Dogman people are seeing were bears, wolves, or other animals that are similar that had mange. And so that's why they looked a little different and maybe didn't have fur on their body because they were missing patches of it.
Yeah.
Do you think that is a very realistic take that Dogman could be, or do you think that that's just something to try to like come up with like a realistic, or I shouldn't say realistic, but an idea on how to explain Dogman to people that aren't going to believe in the supernatural?
Yeah.
See, I'm seeing a lot of it's genetically spliced in a lab type stuff, which does kind of fit with the Nephilim thing. I mean,
Ooh, speaking
if
of
you-
that,
yeah. Go ahead.
there's another story. I'm sure you're getting to that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But we again,
Yeah.
go watch all our episodes. But again, the devil is an Area 51 thing.
Yeah.
Maybe the Nephilim are the ones pushing for cloning and genetic splicing, and they're the ones who are now using our modern technology to do it.
Well, yeah, there was because like a big thing with the Nephilim is the inbreeding,
Yes.
and all the issues that they had with inbreeding, literally diseases and deformities. I mean, there's a reason that the whole thing of giants are known for having 6 fingers. It's
Right.
more than just being giants. It's because they're inbred.
Well, it's interesting you say that because at least the Navajo people, they refer to human beings as the 5-fingered being. So if something had 6 fingers, it wouldn't be human. It would be abnormal to them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. And that was so that was another factor in the Bible of these certain like Nephilim literally trying to mate with more humans, so that way they could try to escape their diseases and everything. And so there's all these different theories of Nephilim bloodlines still existing.
The reptilians.
Yeah, which gets into the reptilians and the Illuminati and all that stuff. But yeah, so if there, let's say that that's true, that there is this bloodline that did way back when have all this weird crazy stuff around inbreeding and mating with animals and all sorts of crazy stuff, well then yeah, it would make sense that if those individuals were still around today, that they would go at the same thing but from a scientific standpoint and do all sorts of weird stuff.
Rick, what was the thing you were referring to with the genetic splicing?
So, the truck driver story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was more to it. I forgot to explain more.
Oh, good.
Ooh wee.
So, I'm back on the page where it took me a second to find it.
It was just a bear fight.
But yeah, the story they gave me that they were watching a few bears fighting each other. And he goes, I didn't want them to know what had just happened, so I left. But supposedly he was having nightmares after this for a while.
Ooh.
And so he gave his story to a few people to tell, but he never told them his name or anything like that. And he was detained later on by the state police to wait on federal authorities.
Huh?
What grounds?
That's just what it says.
Okay.
He was detained by the state police to wait for federal authorities 3 months later. And when the federal authorities arrived, they were very intimidating and angry. And he said, I don't know what is going on. They said, you do. You killed one of our assets, and this is how things are going to go down. And Barger said the guy Barger says the only thing he killed him last year was that creature that he knew of. And another quote was, this was their property. They were mad that I killed it, and they were trying to get me to stop talking about it. They probably knew who I was from the narration story that he gave to people. They then confiscated his gun, shut his bank account off for some time. He said that he stopped talking about it until recently, and he said this is probably another tool in their toolbox for military operations or of some kind, and if they don't keep it under wraps, it won't be a useful tool anymore.
Wow.
So that's where the genetic splicing thing. I'm like, ooh, I forgot, like the crazy part of the story.
Huh. That one's definitely
So
out there.
The two
Yeah.
guys would have been like agents or something, trying to track it down.
Possibly,
Literally like Men in Black guys.
yeah. And they probably didn't know that he shot at it, so they're like trying to throw him off the trail, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
This
It kind of-
Dogman shit goes deep.
So, but like, if this happened, why would they tell him that though? You know, that, oh, you killed our asset. Like, why would they tell him anything?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It is kind of like a thing where if they thought he knew, they would either pay him to keep quiet but not specify,
Yeah.
or they would say they would take him out back, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And old Yeller him.
Yeah. He would have been found having shot himself in the back of the head twice in his apartment alone
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
While hanging himself.
while hanging himself
Yeah.
from his non-bunk bed.
Yeah.
Wait. Is that the twist? You said Old Yeller him. What if they go to Old Yeller, but then Old Yeller is a dogman and rips their head off?
Dude, that
Oh.
needs to be the remake.
That's
Yeah.
the Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey.
That's exactly what I was
take
gonna say.
He
on Old
fails to
Yeller.
kill Old Yeller. He fails to
becomes
kill Old Yeller, and
Dogman.
Old Yeller transforms and then kills him.
Yeah, I just imagine
Um,
like the Thing, like transformation of like shaking and then like...
Yeah.
Terrible.
One thing that I haven't heard you guys talk about, I don't know if you guys read this. One of the stories I read on the transformation is when they go from being a quadped to a biped, that their bones are actually like snapping and like readjusting, making loud noises.
I think I did actually hear about that. I forgot about that. Yeah.
And to me, that'd be freaky to see that,
Oh, yeah.
hear that, see that, and then if they have like that howl, like a human scream, I'd be like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
Like it's almost like demonic at that point, you know, with that whole
Yeah.
transformation
Oh, yeah.
and the human scream. Do you believe in yourself that Dogman is a skinwalker of some type, or do you believe something else?
I would probably veer towards the Skinwalker thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because a lot of the time when it comes to these kooky subjects of like what could it be, all these weird stories around it, I do find that native beliefs usually sound just a little bit more reasonable,
Yeah.
and accurate to the situation. So maybe I have a little bit of a bias towards favoring a lot of Native American folklore.
That's the region that you used to live in too.
Yeah, exactly. So
On the res.
maybe it definitely feels Skinwalker-esque to me.
But we've had like even people comment on our videos that the term skinwalker is thrown around too much.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that that is a term that, you know, maybe the Navajos have, like, you know, to explain what their skinwalker is? That's their idea.
Mm-hmm.
And all these different ideas that we're seeing that are very similar. Is there a different word that, you know, should be used for it in a sense? Or do you think that there may be just skinwalkers and that's just the term that we should use because it best sums up the idea of what it is? because I know some of the research I did, where like the Navajo, that's like a close guarded thing to them.
Oh yeah.
You know.
I think the thing is that part of the problem is that when you have these similar cultural touchstones, again, the lycanthrope, the werewolf, a lot of people think that's what a skinwalker is, and so the reason I use that
Hmm.
term is simply because I don't want to further muddy that water, you know.
Yeah.
But it is difficult with language and cultural stuff when you have, are these cultures talking about the same thing or a similar idea?
Hmm.
Where's the line of how you define it? Would we have to have a new word?
Yeah.
When
The
it-
thing is, with trying to define these things is that they're almost supernatural. They are beyond what words can define that we, can explain. So
yeah. So
where it's like this one word that we feel like it kind of encompasses all the different subjects that we're talking about, it fits, but it may not be the best word to use, or even a word that we should use.
well, when it comes down to it, like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff where people just they throw the word skinwalker at everything. If it's spooky, it's skinwalker. They'll talk about like a creepy person doing weird,
Yeah.
abnormal things, and they'll say, "Oh, it's a skinwalker," and it's like that would be kind of inaccurate. Where I would say what fits for the skinwalker with a lot of the stuff that we've talked about is you have your three different factors that come together, and I don't know what else to call it. You have the factor of human, and animal, and supernatural, and all of those being together, I wouldn't know what else to call it other than a skinwalker. And usually, especially because skinwalkers are in fact like evil and all the bad medicine
They
stuff.
have malevolent intent.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
And
these-
isn't up in that area like a big native has a big native presence as well in northern Michigan, where Dogman was first sighted?
I don't
you know.
know the severity of the presence. So
But there is a presence, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a
for
presence.
sure.
So there's probably a lot of similarities in cultures and the way they, describe some of their like entities that they, encounter.
Yeah, and I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean the skinwalker is one of the most negative and like evil things that a lot of natives believe in. I mean, they believe in a whole lot of different entities, but
it's interesting how all cultures kind of agree on the idea of the demon.
mhm.
In almost every culture, demon is an accepted. It's called daemon or ion sometimes, or demon. Yeah.
Mhm.
There's a lot of different kind of variations, but it seems to me like even the Native Americans, the Greeks, the people of Israel, like the demon seems to be kind of a universal term that people use. It just seems that in this case, because we don't understand the process of the transformation or anything, it seems like, again, yeah, you're right, is that I don't, they technically have a different word, right, in their own language, but this being it, I do think it's like it's kind of what makes sense matching up these things, but it is a tricky subject.
Mhm. And I mean, yeah, it's a good point, because as far as like Dogman, there's nothing talked about as far as like it transforming like into a man or whatever. It's I suppose the transformation of being on all fours to staying on all twos, and then maybe
And then
the
the
bone
human
breaking and
sounding
blah, blah, blah.
voice.
Yeah, so if anything, it could just be an infusion of animal and demonic things, and it isn't necessarily the actual description of what a skinwalker is per se, but for layman terms and just to put a title on it, it is very skinwalker-esque. I would not call it a skinwalker, but I would say yes, it is skinwalker-esque. It is around, it's that type of category. Um, but when it comes down to it, we don't actually know the actual process of anything Dogman related. So,
And I think that's like the one thing that's like almost escapes like the whole mythos of the Dogman is that we don't know if the Dogman is just as is, dog head on a human body, or if it transforms or anything like that. We don't really know. We just have these stories that just have the encounters that it's already transformed and ready to go, ready to get you, ready to tear you apart.
yeah, if anything, the thing that makes me really think Skinwalker is that story of
The grave.
of all the
Yeah.
graves, it went to a Native American grave to defile.
I just think like it's this, like I said earlier, it's just we're always trying to categorize everything and try to explain things, and this term is something that describes something that we don't know how to describe.
It's
Because it's
our
usually
best
beyond
reference.
our word, but we're given this one word that fits everything in that we can fit it into. So we believe Skinwalker, where I know there's like some of those stories where people see like it's like people acting weird and they think they're Skinwalkers. I think that's where people get mad about.
Again,
the term and everything.
that's the stuff where I think people kind of the invasion of the body snatchers, the thing.
Yeah,
This is kind of being folded in, and including this online web series where flesh crawlers are like this thing that take on the shape and they scream, screams, but it's to lure you closer. That's Gemini Home Entertainment, I believe. That's the series. So there's this conflation going on, anything that shapeshifts, but in the Navajo beliefs, there's a very specific process to take on these non-human forms. But Dogman is Dogman, definitely something unnerving.
yeah.
Like you were saying, Brandon, I think it's very telling that it's always a very terrifying thing, unlike some other.
Yeah.
Like especially Bigfoot. Bigfoot's almost like a neutral presence most of the time. Sometimes scary, a lot of time like kind of benevolent almost, but this seems to be pure evil.
No, yeah, because the big thing when it comes to Bigfoot is when people say like, "Oh, I made eye contact with Bigfoot and he's staring at me." Hardly any of the stories say, and it felt like he wanted to kill me.
Yeah.
Like if anything, it's like he's angry, get out of my territory, that kind of stuff. But not like I want to murder you for murder's sake.
Yeah.
Like he's not a predator that specifically wants to eat you or something like that. So
Yeah, just like little bit of the Dogman stories kind of reminded me almost like the story that me and Brandon did over this last week, the mother story, where the whole presence and the whole room just felt like something evil and something was trying to get you, but they didn't know how to explain it or anything like that.
Yep.
That's like the one thing that that kind of felt similar to Dogman. I'm like, they encounter some like weird Dogman that could mimic a voice, but that's another thing that we can't explain is that what kind of cryptid it was.
Yeah.
Or if it was a cryptid or maybe even a demon or some kind of poltergeist or some kind of whatever,
Yeah. Just
that's the thing with some of these things is they're hard to classify because there's a lot of different things that they could be.
Mhm.
Of course,
And
we're trying to tie the threads together.
yeah,
So we have a daunting task because like we've talked about is we're obsessed with classification. It makes us feel better, like we have a better grasp of things.
yeah,
I can understand it, then I can control it. But that's part of what we're doing here. But also, I think it's good, Rick. You're right. We should keep aware of the fact that, there are more things on heaven and earth than we have dreamt of in our philosophy. And it could be all related. It could be unrelated.
yeah.
So, any other thoughts about the Michigan Dogman, the Beast of Bray Road, the Gable creature, the Dogman in general, the asset?
Yeah, the asset. Nothing else that I can think of. It's just one of those things. I think it's just like you said. It's just going to get more popular and grow over the years, and
Yeah,
maybe we'll get a better film than the Gable footage soon.
I genuinely believe that this. You look at the numbers, the metrics, is that this thing, there's clearly a rising presence of this.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
But could it be falling to the Skinwalker phenomenon
Right.
that, they're trying to classify everything as Dogman now?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's that whatever's culturally relevant. People see something that is out of the norm, and so then they put the sticker of that culturally relevant thing on it. So yeah, there could have been many cases where people saw something that was maybe a little bit more Bigfooty than it was Dogman, but because at that point in time they've been hearing more Dogman stuff, so they're like, oh, it's Dogman or Mothman or whatever,
Yeah.
So
And there's always things that, we think that we see, but we always try to put names on it, or we try to figure out what it is, even though it could have been just a moving tree or something moving, in the night. It kind of
Jersey
reminds
Devil?
me of, what's that?
The Jersey Devil.
Yep. It kind of reminds me of a little story that we had about a week ago with Brandon and I. Oh, he's giving that look. He doesn't remember.
I
But as
think
soon
I
as
know
I say this,
you're talking about the shoot we were on, right?
what's that?
You're talking about the shoot that we were on, or
Yeah.
yeah.
So Madeline and I had taken a different way up the
Oh, right.
the hill, and
Right.
he thought that he saw me over in a different area, that I went back down and, was walking down, and he thought he saw me walking down, but it was,
Yeah.
I think me, Madeline, and Josiah were up already talking next to the van,
No, yeah. So
and he comes back. He's like, "Were you over there?" No, no,
Yeah.
I wasn't, dude.
So a little bit of background for everybody. If it's not obvious already, we're filmmakers, and we were on a shoot last weekend. Was that last weekend? It's gone by so fast now.
Yeah. It was.
And it involved us. We had our parking lot where we were parked at, and our location, which is by a little bit of a creek / riverbed and all this stuff. So lots of big rocks and all this terrain to get through with carrying equipment and everything. So we were all, there was roughly 8 people there. And we were all just going, grabbing stuff and making trips back and forth. And so at this particular time, I was, I grabbed my load of stuff. Rick and our other coworker, associate, friend, Madeline, was carrying some stuff with Rick. We were walking back, and the obvious path forward was straight. And since I was carrying something heavy, I'm just going straight. And Madeline and Rick were like, "Oh, this path over here is better. You should come over here, Brandon." And I was like, "It's fine. I don't care." And so we roughly landed at the parking lot at the same time. So I dropped my stuff off, and then I just turn around and go. And there was a big cart full of stuff that obviously a lot of people were on, trying to move it through these big rocks. So I go over there, I try to help lifting it and everything. And so as I'm getting up to them, they're probably 50 feet away from the base camp of where everything was. So my intention was we pretty much had everything in the cart and everything. So my intention was help them get the cart a little bit further and then go to the base camp to double check, make sure we grabbed everything. And so as I'm walking up to them, I see them at the cart, group of people trying to move this big cart over these rocks. And behind them, I swear it looked like Rick was walking behind them to the base camp. And I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think at all the fact that I'm ahead of Rick right now because Rick's back over by the cars. It was so nonchalant. I was like, I think that's Rick over there. I if I went over there and then it was somebody else, I wouldn't have necessarily batted an eye. It was just I assumed it was Rick. I just see this person walking by behind them. As I'm walking up to them, I can see this person that's behind them, in the background, further back. that's just like slowly like kind of like meandering around, and as I get up to them I help them lift the cart over this like big pile of rocks, and then like I see the person walk behind like a big like tree that was on the ground and everything, and I'm like, yeah, that's probably Rick, whatever. and and so then like they go on their way, and so then I start walking over there by myself, uh and like as I'm getting closer, there's the base of a part of a downed tree of everything that like in this is like darkness as well. This it's not 100% dark, but the sun's going down, so it's that like bluish past golden hour time, to where everything is very shadowy. And like I do notice that there is a the base of a uprooted tree that I was like, oh, like from afar that looks kind of spooky. It almost looks like a person like standing there, but not moving though, just standing there. And like, but I recognize that immediately of like, it almost looks like the shape of a person, yada, yada. And so like, I get over there, I'm like looking around, I'm like, where's Rick? Wasn't Rick over here? like, did he pass me? And like, and looking around. And so I go to a different part of like where we were shooting, looking around for stuff. And I'm like, I'm the only one over here. Like, huh. Like weird. Like I didn't have any spooky feeling, nothing like that. I just swear that I saw Rick. Simply like the thing that made me very adamant about it was like, yes, I did see the thing where it looked like a person, but it was staying still. I did not see like that thing was there. The thing that I saw that I thought was Rick was walking around. Like I swear to God, it was a person walking around. But of course, it was shadowy and everything. I'm not even going to make a claim of what it was. Really could have been my brain, but it was weird. That's for sure. So,
and then you get back up to where we were, and you're like, "Did you go back down there?" I was like, "No, I've been here the whole time."
Yeah, I was like, weird.
It was a little spooky that night.
What I think was happening is we dropped our stuff off at the parking lot. I went back. Rick stayed in the parking lot and then went into a trance and astral projected himself at the base camp. And I saw that. And then he was like, hey, I'm going to get yoga with this one. Yeah, no, you've been doing yoga. It makes sense. You're in touch.
Or it could have been like what we were talking about last week is the residual energy of me. The memory was there.
Maybe.
Of me walking around that tree.
Maybe.
From earlier in the day.
Yeah, and you're such a ethereal being now that you do yoga that it's just affecting everything around you.
I know how to astral project myself across
he will single-handedly make this podcast go up in viewership from the true stories that Brandon's going to tell now.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that being said, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me. Thanks to all of you for listening, and please like and comment on this video. Subscribe, share it with your friends on subreddits, and let us know if there's any topics, cryptids or otherwise, that you'd like us to explore. The missing 411, maybe we could tackle that at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. But until then, yeah.
I was just gonna say, if anyone has Dogman experiences, hit us up.
Please let us know.
I tried to contact the Dogman Encounters guy. I think I should contact him through the website. I was gonna see if I could get him on this podcast, but what are you gonna do?
Ooh, we can do a quick just Q&A.
Yeah, do a Q&A with him.
Yeah,
cool. That'd be sick.
But thank you all, and sleep well out there.